weird thing. People like communicating, but communicating across distances was really hard throughout most of history. Just getting something from this town to the next town was often close to impossible. But when this did happen, it was normally caused by a government setting up roads or mail or whatnot. But I'm discussing D&D, which has magic, among other things, influencing that. So I wanted to discuss some of these concepts, starting with our only cantrip of note, message. It allows you to fittingly send a message out to 120 feet, and the receiver can send a response back in a whisper only you can hear. And while 120 feet isn't a small distance, it's not a huge one. This is probably at its peak if you have a battlefield with multiple mages for directions and informations, which can help with that wartime communication, which gets rough in certain areas. You might be concerned, you might be losing in panic, but now you can say, hey, I talked to them, they're about to flank, we're in a good spot. It's also notable it can skip corners and go through any opening. You could communicate with prisoners using it, and it could be blocked by a thin sheet of lead, which could lead to lead-lined prisons if this is someone you don't want communicating with the outside world. And maybe some lead poisoning to go with it. Not sure what conflict you could build out of that, but there is probably something, maybe something to do with tomatoes and lead lining. After that, we have Spell of Legend, that is sending. You can send a message of up to 25 words, which can go across any distance, including other planes. The first part of this I want to note is the receiver just understands the meaning of the message with no language barrier. So if your character knows a language that talks with less words than English, we could increase message size without changing word count. After that, we know it's a 3rd level spell, which is a 5th level character screwing with it. The exact quantity and quality of magic available to the common folk changes by setting, but I imagine 1 in 20 to 1 in 100 people are capable of this, and the person needs to be familiar with the target. So I'm imagining a man with this spell could be afforded to meet and become familiar with nobles in order to potentially send messages to them under the service of someone else. Also, since most nobles don't cast their own magic, false sendings could be a problem in times of war. This career, as someone who simply meets important people and then meets other important people with the ability to send messages to the first important people, would probably be one of the more appealing wizardry paths that involves not much danger except for, the roads, the bandits, etc. This could easily be a very common profession where you're jumping from place to place, meeting people that might receive messages from other people. That is until we look at sending stones. Sending stones come with the benefit of you can't get false messages from them, but also they can only be used once per day, which is kind of inconvenient. They aren't walkie-talkies, unlike how they are depicted in Honor Among Thieves. Anyway, they are handy, but selective in use. Settings would choose how common they are. If easy to grab, I could easily see businesses commonly interacting with cities, getting a large collecting of the stones, and sending information to be written down and dispersed as mail on a local level, avoiding transit, so you're avoiding the bandits, the monsters, etc. Otherwise, maybe just rich people have the ability to communicate with each other as they get these relatively rare items, or they're too rare to have a general impact on the world unless it comes up in the plot. But if we lean away from magic for a moment, it's worth observing carrier pigeons, crows, and such could still be trained to do their thing. This is mostly the same, but training with magic could be faster, and fictional species might even be more capable. Please remember, magic includes the ability to speak directly with the animal and for them to directly understand you, and some of them are, more or less capable of sentient thought, but really, this is just so I could lean into the spell Animal Messenger. Animal Messenger lets you send messages of up to 25 words by up to 24 hours of beast travel. Sounds like a full downgrade from message, but 50 miles for a small bird is still a great amount of ground. It's level 2, allowing it to be more accessible casting, including being possible to cast by ritual so that multiple messages can be sent back to back without complete spell slot drainage. Also, 3rd and 4th level spell slots increase the duration by 48 hours each, so that's 100 miles on a 3rd level spell slot, and that's just 1 slot higher. Just one more piece of information will affect its impact on world building, that is, it's a druid exclusive spells. Druids have the fun of all being spellcasters, and Seeing as it's only a second level ritual, the druids of most settings probably have really solid communication lines, especially considering instead of knowing the person they are sending to personally, they just need a general description. Sadly, unlike other forms of communication, rich people don't benefit from this unless they specifically want to send a message to druids. But you know what sucks about all of these forms of communication? One person at a time. There is, however, a group within the setting that might want to send a message to a large group of people at once. That is, of course, priests, which get the handy spell Skywrite. I imagine this mostly being used to update people of a religious group of what priests are concerned with at the time, which is almost where I left this spell, but then I realized it can be used for incredibly brutal public shaming if you want. Imagine your name being written with the sky and everyone starts avoiding you. Also, health updates, maybe X place has contracted X disease, so people know to avoid it, just general stuff. Finally, mail could probably still exist, just not on a massive level, you know, local level mail. This is already a lot longer than my normal scripts, and I was planning to do speculation, so we're gonna speed round some awkward concepts. First, eldritch beings, the great old ones, are massive entities. You can passively absorb power as a warlock of this kind. Could easily be placed in contact with each other through dreams and visions, maybe even between instances of the material plane. You could talk with someone from another realm. Deities could generally gather and provide information in dreams on a large scale. This could alert an entire civilization to enemies of that deity, or could be used to alert them to other matters of great concern. If you have a holy empire, imagine a newsletter that just comes up every night when everyone sleeps. That's very effective communication, could have a very meaningful impact on a story. Awakened animals could carry messages in a similar manner to animal messenger, but on a larger scale and with more consistency. Psionics exist, that's telepathy, do with that what you will. Mind flayers and many other species exist in a hive mind. A widespread hive could be used for a message system, particularly among evil individuals. The cleric's spell tongue skips language barriers and could result in them being hired as a communication in many situations. Goblins could dump combinations of ingredients into a river to send a taste-based message downstream, in some cases involving light poisoning that goblins are immune to, but people might not be. Fire could burn in writing if something from the plane of fire wants to talk, and I'm ripping this off, but undead handwriting could be how a death deity communicates. Thank you for your time.